Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. We will have a Jadon Sancho update, but it's really not what I want to spend a lot of time talking about this morning. We will have an update on Varane, on Trippier, on a few other items as well. Pogba speaking about his future last night after the France game. But I want to start off with something that you may have... I was going to talk about this morning anyway, but it's definitely in the press this morning. I think it was in the Telegraph, talking about SOLSKJAER and a centre defensive midfielder. And effectively, what a lot of you have been saying actually for the last few days that is now sort of leaking into the press, that, you know, however much money Manchester United have got to spend this summer, the priority is not a centre defensive midfielder. And you can get excited about Sancho and you can get excited about centre-backs, but the reality is there is money to spend, and for whatever reason, United, SOLSKJAER are not prioritising a centre defensive midfielder. To me, personally, I think that's ridiculous. I think it's the most obvious position. We don't actually have one. Most teams have two. We don't have one, and we're not prioritising that position. Now, it's not all doom and gloom, because in the Telegraph, I think it's the Telegraph or the Times, it's one of the two T's, they're saying that that SOLSKJAER would like a centre defensive midfielder, but it's not the priority, and if they're going to get one, he's going to have to sell to buy and reduce the wage bill. That, to me, sort of sounds like it'd be nice to get a backup right back. This is a priority position, and we are prioritising a backup right back in Trippier, Varane and Sancho over a centre defensive midfielder. And I think this is the concern that that some fans have, is that, you know, all last season we saw Magaluf and a lot of people didn't like it, but obviously Ollie stuck with it, but was like, yeah, I do need to bring a centre back in. All last season, people were very fed up with the McFred, you know, very boring player of players, not very creative, you know, hard-working, but really quite, you know, limiting players. And yet, and hoped that, yeah, you know, he's just doing it while he can, and in the summer he's going to buy somebody. Well, that doesn't appear to be the case. There's no doubt, I mean, I'm not saying that there's no doubt that SOLSKJAER would like to bring a centre defence midfielder in, but it's not priority number one, it's not priority number two, and it's probably not even priority number three. It's probably priority number four, behind a backup right back. So, look, you can moan about the Glazers, you can moan about the lack of money being spent, and all those things are absolutely spot on. But the reality is, you've also got to start looking at the coaching and saying, look, why are we coming into this transfer market spending time on an 80 million winger when you spent 40 million on two wingers a year ago? Why are you spending, you know, 60 million on a centre-back when you're going to loan people like Twan Sebi out? Eric Bailly signed a new contract. You've still got Lindelof and Maguire. I'm not saying we don't need those players. I do think we need Sancho and I do think we need Varane. But to neglect the midfield, in which you've had to put... I mean, look at Paul Pogba last night. Look at Paul Pogba last night. He was world class. His passing from midfield was unbelievable. 40 yards, 20 yards, tackling, dribbling, holding the ball up. This guy's on the left wing for United. And some people are like, oh yeah, Pogba on the left wing, it's real thing, you know, he's absolutely superb. Of course he's all right on the left wing because he's a good player. But he's a bloody centre midfielder. The world's biggest tournament of the summer is the Euros, and Paul Pogba is conducting things against very good sides, and yet United have to put him on the wing because we've got no CDM. It's like, people were last night saying, why was Pogba so good last night? Well, it's because he's got the freedom to run that midfield. You know, he's not playing against Accrington Stanley, he's playing against Portugal. Portugal have got good players. He dominated Renato Sanchez, he dominated Moutinho, and then when they made the change, he dominated the new player as well. Paul Pogba was on a different planet last night, in a team that suits him, in the centre of midfield. At United, we've never really been able to do that, and we certainly didn't do it last year, because every time Ollie tried to play him with Fred or McTominay, there was a big issue. We need a CDM, and we're not looking for a CDM, and it's very worrying. The teams we could have got in the Euros, who were you happiest getting? I think Germany was the best we could have got. I think they're hit and miss, says Mull. Well, we're talking about United, mate, to be honest with you, but, you know, England will take care of itself, really. I mean, whatever, you know, we'll see what happens with that. I'm more interested in United. Mark, do you think if we get Varane, this would allow us to play a midfield of Pogba with Fred or even Donny and play more expansive? No, Kevin, I don't think it will. I think this is a myth. I think, you know, obviously if you bring Varane in, you play a higher line, but that doesn't make... What's Varane going to do? It's going to teach Fred or McTominay to take the ball off the back four and shield it on their own. They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to do it. We play McFred because it's two people doing one person's job. Anybody who knows anything about football knows that the reason we play McTominay and Fred is because they're not good enough to do it on their own. So we use two people to do one person's job. And then when you use two people to do one person's job, you cannot play Pogba or Van der Beek in the midfield because you've already picked your two midfielders. But McTominay and Fred are doing one person's job. as two people. So therefore, you've got to shoehorn Pogba into the left wing. That's what we're doing with that. It doesn't mean we won't buy a centre defensive midfielder, by the way, but it's looking very unlikely. The reality is that United's priority, and I've got an update on all three of these. The reality is on all three, United's priorities are Jadon Sancho, Trippier, and Varane. That's what they're working on. You can spin it as much as you want, but United are working on Trippier, Varane, and Sancho. That's what they're working on. They're not working on a CDM. There is no work going into a CDM. And as I said, for me, doesn't mean we won't necessarily get one, but it terrifies me that we haven't got the foresight or coaching ability to realise that that is a priority position for no more than one reason, and we're not looking at it. You know, that says everything about the coaching obsession with McTominay and Fred, that they clearly think that those two players are good enough for us to go and win a Premier League. And that terrifies me, because if Pogba leaves, we're not even talking about buying a CDM to play with Pogba. We're playing McFred. So that is United's future at the moment. As we sit here right now, our midfield future, when we get Sancho, when we get Varane, when we get Trippier, you're still going to have McTominay and Fred. And that is the belief of this coaching setup, that McTominay and Fred are the two midfielders that are going to make this team great again. And I tell you what, it's just not going to happen, is it? Who can blame Pogba? Stupid manager, staff and board, says Tabris. Is Trippier even worth getting? When we actually have Dalot on the books with plenty of years ahead of him, says the Hooked. Well, you know, I'd rather spend that money. Morning, Mark. Thoughts on Koundé at right back? He'll be good right back and centre back, says Mikael Roach. I think Koundé's a fantastic centre back. I thought he played well last night, but he's a fantastic centre back. And anybody who thinks that Koundé's height is a problem, go back and watch the first 5 minutes of the game yesterday. A straight jump with Ronaldo, who's bigger than him and has a leaps like a salmon, and he beat him in the air. So, you know, can't blame Glazers on this one. This is totally on the manager if we don't get a CDM. We go into next season with McFred starting again, then I'm lost, says Ben Anderson. And you've mentioned Ollie and trust issues, not playing centre players we want, such as Twansebi centre-back and Ahmad on the wing instead of a broken Rashford and Shambolic. James, not to mention Donny, is he the man for the job? Well, look, Sam, I don't... you know, the Solskjaer in-out thing, I've said this before, we're in the middle of a transfer window. This summer is about transfers. It's not about playing games. If you're Ollie out, fine. I don't really think it adds a hell of a lot to the conversation at the moment to start talking about whether Ollie's the right man or not, because he's not getting the sack. He's about to get a new contract. And keep going on about Ollie's not the right man. Who are you arguing? You may as well walk into your garden and argue with a tree. Because you thinking Ollie's not the right man, somebody else thinking Ollie is the right man, it's an irrelevance. This summer is about signings. This summer is about removing the deadwood. And next season, as soon as those games kick in, you're going to have 9 months to talk about whether Ollie's the right man or not. But right now, we need action in the transfer market. And what makes me laugh is that if the case is, and we keep hearing about this, Romano has said about it, a few people have said, if United want to buy a midfielder, it's dependent what happens with Pogba and in and out and outgoings. What I believe to be the case, and Alfreda says, thank you, Mark, for your hard work. Your channel and personality really helps my mental health every day. Love from Norway. Big up, mate. Thanks for talking about that, and I hope you have a good day. But what I see is happening with United, like I say, is that we are prioritising Sancho, a centre-back and Trippier, and that's what we're working on. And to be honest with you, do you really think United can do more than 3 signings? So it looks like we're going to get Trippier, Sancho and a centre-back. May not be Varane, we'll talk about that in a minute. That's what United are prioritising. Now, if the story is, well, we'd like a CDM but we can't afford one, why are you buying Sancho? Why are you buying Varane? Why are you not prioritising a centre defensive midfielder? I mean, I think any decent coach would take over United and go, the most important position is not buying me another right winger. I'll use that Diallo lad for another year. You spent 35 million on him. I'll use him. I don't need you to spend another 80 million on a winger. I like Sancho. Can we put it off for another year? Because I need to spend money on a CDM. I haven't got one. I don't need another right winger. As good as he is, if that's the money, stop that deal and get me a CDM. That's what Pep would do. That's what Klopp would do, because they try and build a team. But even if the Sancho's deal's already done, you can still generate the funds. I saw this morning that Lingard's future's uncertain because he's got to come back and train and see what happens. Why is his future uncertain? The best move for Lingard is to go. The best move for United is to get the 20-25 million. That deal can be done. It's not like Phil Jones where you're desperately trying to sell him. There's people who want to sell that buy Lingard. You sell Lingard, you've got 20 million straight away towards a midfielder. You only need to sell one more player and you've got 35 million. And that could be Dalot, that could be, Pereira, it could be Matic and Mata removed as well. This talk that we don't have, we've got to generate money to get a CDM. For one, we shouldn't be generating money for a CDM because it should have been the priority signing. But for two, you can generate the money quite quickly. But as we know, jobs for the boys club, they don't know who to get rid of. Oh, Mata's a nice guy. He might be a good coach in a year. Let's keep him on. Oh, Matic is a good guy. Let's keep him on. He might be a coach as well. Oh, Jesse's been here since he was 4. Let's keep him here as well. The ruthlessness isn't there. And that's why we will never progress as a football club, because we don't have the specialists in there. And that's where it does go to the very top. That's where it does go to the Glazers, because who allows, if I was the boss of a company and some external person complained and went, your company is failing because it's jobs for the boys. Like, they're all promoting within, they're all looking out for each other. And if I knew that as the boss, I'd be like, right, okay, that's on me. Right, this is stopping now. I want specialism in here. So ultimately, all these issues, they're not really Ollie's problem. They're not really the recruitment staff problem. It goes to the very top. They allow this, inbreeding, I suppose, of Woodward's leaving, let's move somebody else across who's already at the club. I'm not saying we don't need a CDM, but with Varane, I think our current midfield would be able to work more functionally, says Steve. I totally and utterly disagree with you, Steve. What is it about Varane that makes a CDM that's not a CDM a CDM? So you're telling me that you could put Varane in a Newcastle defence and their midfield would suddenly become good? Because that's what we've got. McTominay and Fred are a Newcastle midfield pivot. So you're telling me that Varane and Maguire would make their midfield better? Why? What's Varane going to do? A CDM's job is to take the ball from Varane and then pass it forward effectively for 90 minutes to forward players. Varane's just going to give them the ball. He's not going to pass the ball for them. And also, a CDM's job is to shield the back four. For that, the only thing that will change is we'll play a slightly higher line with Varane than we will with Lindelof. But it's not going to make the CDM better. Sancho is last year's transfer budget. Grealish is a generational talent. You've invested in 10 years of your future with him. We should be buying Sancho, Grealish and Varane just for a start, says Shane Collins. Hi Mark, looking at United's squad now, I really fear this keeping not good enough players as it is now. The wage structure is killing us slowly, says Klaus. Well look, people are asking me about Sancho. I'll give you an update on Sancho. But I've got to be honest, I'm looking at Manchester United's activity and I'm very worried at the moment, which is weird because we're about to sign Jadon Sancho, the big shirt seller, the big hope for the Glazers, and that is about to come. But, I mean, look, Akanj has just said Pogba CM, we don't need a CDM. Mate, we've already got Pogba. We've already got Pogba, one of the best centre midfielders in the world. We've already got him, and we play him on the wing. This is why we need a CDM. I agree Pogba's a fantastic midfielder, but we don't play him in the midfield because he hasn't got a CDM. Pogba's like a premium spirit for France. He is mixed with Coca-Cola and is great for United. He is mixed with Glazer, Roller Cola, and it doesn't work, says Joanne. Okay, good one. But yeah, I must admit, look, let me give you the update on Sancho. So basically, I haven't spoken about Sancho much this morning because, to be honest with you, yesterday, although quite surprising, I think everyone's Sancho'd out. The reality is the negotiations are ongoing. The Sancho deal will happen, but it's probably not going to happen until next week because ultimately a week today is the 1st of July and I believe that is when TeamViewer kicks in. Maybe a week on Tuesday, maybe on Tuesday England will be out. So I'm thinking back end of next week, Jadon Sancho, TeamViewer, Glazers in. I'm not Glazers in, but that they've won. The shirts are going to go like wildfire. And I must admit, if you're going to buy a shirt with Sancho on the back, that is completely and utterly up to you. And I am not going to sit here and tell you not to do it because that is not my place to do it. All I will do is say that that shirt is going to sell lots and lots of shirts worldwide. And it makes you think, how do these people go from 6 weeks ago, Glazers out, not a penny more, to 6 weeks later, we've just signed a player that we should have bought last summer and they're buying the kit? That's why they win, people. That's all I'm going to say. That's why they win, because they've basically done nothing. They've done nothing. They've attended a fan forum, probably told a load of lies, bought a player they should have bought last year, and everyone's like, yeah, let's buy the shirt. I just, yeah. But it's not, I'm not going to get stressed about it. Mark, we all know McTominay don't work together. I know you say we need a CDM, I agree, but do you not believe we could coach McTominay into that CDM role, says Gaz Hardy? But what, you know what? Why should we, Gaz? Why should we be, why should we be sticking square pegs into round holes? We're Manchester United. I've told this story before. Why are we turning players that are not good enough into something to try and make them good enough? It is like that round hole and you've got a square peg and you're whacking it in with a hammer. And you might whack it in eventually, but it's not a good fit. And also, can I just say, why do you think clubs spend 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 million pounds on players? It's because they're good. If you can turn Scott McTominay into Michael Carrick, why would you ever spend 80 million on Jadon Sancho? Because surely you can turn Dan James into Jadon Sancho. Oh, no, you can't do that. He's not good enough. Oh, hold on. That's my original point then. Why do people think you can coach somebody to be a Michael Carrick or a Kimmich or an Ndidi? If you could do that, Man City would never spend any money because Pep Guardiola is one of the best coaches in the world. He'd just go to Stoke, get somebody on a free transfer who's 23 and turn him into Fernandinho. You can't do it because there's something called talent. So you can't just take a player and turn them into something because you don't want to spend money. And that's what United probably are trying to do. Hey Mark, I think the reason we aren't looking at a CDM is because we're thinking of playing a back five next year. That's why we want Trippier and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. If we're playing a back five next year, Kevin, I don't know. Man United with a back five, God. George Kester, welcome to the Members Club. Pogba's performance last night shows how important a world-class CDM would be. Kante gave him complete freedom of the pitch last night, says Cameron. It's not rocket science, Cameron, you're spot on. I would rather prefer us signing a CDM and a centre-back than a right winger. Sancho will be a good signing, but he's never a priority signing for this team, says Ram. He's a luxury signing, Sancho, to be honest. He's not essential. He's a fantastic player. I can't wait for him to be wearing a United shirt, and I really, really like him, but he's a luxury signing. He's almost an icing on the cake signing, and we haven't baked a cake. Like, he's a fantastic player. He's massively exciting. He's one of the world's best-known young players. But for Manchester United, who don't have a spine, he's almost a luxury signing. And it's... To be honest with you, I feel like Sancho... Ollie definitely wants Sancho. He wanted him last summer, so I can't knock Ollie. I think for the Glazers, this is a shirt seller. This is a marquee signing to get the fans back on side because it's not a football signing in the sense that it's not a priority signing. He's a fantastic player and he will make us better, but he's not going to improve the midfield. And that's where games are won and lost. I think we should have bought a CDM or centre-back last year, then get Diallo for 35 million to bench him. That would have solved the problem this time, agree, says Amit. Thanks for the super chats that are coming in, by the way. Lots of people tuning in. Make sure you smash a like on the video. So, yeah, it doesn't look like we're going to get a centre defence midfielder. However, I would just say, I spoke about it a few days ago, don't sleep on Sanderberg. He would be cheap. He is a CDM. He is Norwegian, and Ollie likes him. Declan Rice we admire. But there is nobody else. And this is what I'm trying to say. I've even seen people in the chat saying we can still get a CDM. We can still get a CDM, but what I'm telling you is, and you know this anyway, but I'm telling you this, United are working on Trippier, Varane and Sancho, and that is it. They are the only deals United are working on. And we know United take a long time. Sancho's not even done yet. They've then got to work on Varane. That's going to take 6 weeks. Then they're going to work on Trippier. That's going to take 6 weeks. There's no time left. 6 plus 6 is 12. In 12 weeks, the transfer window's open, I think. It's closed. So I don't see United doing any other deal. And we're not looking at Ndidi. And we're not looking at Basuma. And we're not looking at Zakaria. And we're not looking at Ruben Neves. We admire Rice, and there's a little bit of talk about Zanderberg, but we're not dealing with those clubs. We're not looking to do a deal with those clubs at the moment. Now, things can change quickly. And I would hope that the reason we're not doing anything around a CDM is because we want Declan Rice. He's at the Euros. He wants to go to Chelsea. If Chelsea don't go for him, we might make a move. But maybe not. Maybe it's not a priority. And there's plenty of players we could look at. But, do I think that Pogba and McTominay can work together, Andrew? No, I don't. I've seen them play together a few times. I don't think it works at all. I don't think McTominay's a CDM. I think he's massively overrated. As a footballer, I think he's overrated. I think his only future is as a box-to-box player, and we don't use him as a box-to-box player. Even Scotland don't really know how to use him. I was watching that Croatia game the other day, and he got dominated in the midfield. Croatia's midfield dominated him. But you know why? Because they're clever little players. Modric, Brozovic, Kovacic, they're clever little players. They move, they pass and move, and McTominay's too big. McTominay is a powerhouse. He needs to be a little bit like a box-to-box player. That's what he needs to be. I don't know whether he's good enough at that, but he's certainly not a CDM. And, to try and compare him to Michael Carrick or Darren Fletcher, he's massive compared to Fletcher for a start. And Michael Carrick had a totally different body shape and on the ball. Totally different to the way McTominay is. Carrick was a first-time passer. McTominay doesn't first-time pass. He does that little pivot spin, doesn't he? So I hope McTominay has a future. I've heard a lot of good things about him from a lot of different people, but not as a CDM. He's never going to be a CDM. We need to buy a CDM. Mark, move home to Malahide and come and have a drink in Belbrigham. I'd love a drink in Belbrigham, Stuart Grant. I'll definitely join you there. Gaz says, Mark, I understand your theory regarding McTominay CDM, but we see so much these players not being good enough at United, but that then when they play for the national teams, they're a different kind of player. But I thought he was shit on against Croatia. I've just said that, Gaz. I thought McTominay's best game of the tournament was as centre-back against England in a back five. God, maybe that's what we're going to do. Maybe we're going to use McTominay in a back five. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to some of the transfer news. Paul Pogba was spoken to after the match yesterday. Basically said, I knew I'd get asked this question about my hair because his hair had white on it, didn't it? So black and white, Juventus. He said, I knew I'd get asked this question. I'm totally focused on the Euros. So Pogba, future... I mean, I don't even want to talk about Pogba's future. You know what? All I want is United to keep Pogba, get a CDM, get a right winger, get a centre-back, let's move. And I just think that the way this summer is... Sev says that his friend Ishmael is a huge prat. I just think the way this summer's going, there's so much uncertainty. And there's going to be uncertainty. The Euros was always going to create an air of uncertainty. But it's going to be a backlog, a traffic jam in July and August because there's so much that needs to be done. And we've done nothing at the moment. Dan James hasn't been loaned. Matt has not been released. Even Tony Grant's not been released. Matic, what's happening with him? He's not in the Euros. Lingard, what's happening with him? Goalkeeping situation, what's happening with that? Pogba, what's happening with that? Dalot. There's so much that needs to be done, and we're going to have to work so quick in July. And we can do it, but it's going to be very difficult. Is McTominay better than Scholes, Carrick, Hargreaves, Keane? No, we can rest that, says Tabo. I don't think McTominay's better than Anderson. I don't think McTominay's better than Cleverley. So I don't think McTominay's better than John O'Shea, who was a utility player. So, standards at this football. Welcome to the Members Club, Jay. Standards at this football club are very difficult. I would say where does Pogba stand next to a Roy Keane? Nowhere near. Ability-wise, probably better, but performance-wise in a United shirt, miles off. So I don't think you can even compare this United team to United teams that have won things because this team can't win things. So, this United team has got good players in, but it's impossible to compare them to United teams of the past because United teams of the past were winners. How a good example is I like Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I do like Aaron Wan-Bissaka. How close is he to Gary Neville? Because to be honest with you, if they were cities and Gary Neville was a good right back and Gary Neville is London, I would say that Aaron Wan-Bissaka is Moscow. He's miles away. It doesn't mean he's not a good right back, but Gary Neville was an absolutely superb right back. So, but I think some people would go, ooh, Wan-Bissaka and Gary Neville are quite close. They're not. I don't think Harry Maguire's anywhere near Rio Ferdinand or Vidic or Jaap Stam or Steve Bruce or Gary Pallister. So, I don't think there's many players in this current team that are anywhere near the quality United need. But that's because of years of degradation and, drop-off, really. And you can only support, we all love the players that play now. So we support them. But the gap, the reason we are where we are is because we're nowhere near that level that we used to have. Whether that's coaching, quality, whatever. I think some of these players have got the quality. But, yeah. Let's bring you some updates then. So, we spoke about what Pogba said there. Obviously, Pogba's not going to resolve his future until the summer. As I said about Sancho, the belief is that Sancho will happen next week. If England go out on Tuesday, late next week, which will tie in perfectly with the Chevrolet deal, I think, finishes on next Wednesday, and the team viewer comes in next Thursday. So any time after next Thursday, the Sancho deal can be announced, really, because the kit will be... I don't know when the kit comes out, but obviously we know that that deal will be done very, very soon. We're talking less than 5 million between United and Dortmund at the moment to get the Sancho deal done as well. It's very, very close. It's closer than close. It's Sky Sports News, Jim White close. Jadon Sancho to Manchester United. Jadon Sancho to Manchester United. It's closer than close. Closer than you ever can imagine. We're close. Also, we are working on a Trippier deal, but we don't want to spend any more than 20 million. On the centre-back, very interesting story about the centre-back situation. I believe it was coming from the Manchester Evening News, and what they're saying is that United want Varane. Sky Sports News breaking here. Varane to Manchester United, but they're looking at Ben White and Pau Torres from Villarreal. Yes, so the story is basically saying that United want Varane, but they're worried about the price they'll have to pay for Varane, so they're looking at alternatives to be Ben White and Pau Torres, which is a shame because I quite like, I really like Koundé. I really like Koundé. So, yeah, it's interesting. And just on Raphael Varane, just a couple of updates that have come in from AS. Raphael Varane demanded an increase in wages, but the club cannot pay that at this time. This is the only summer they can benefit from a fee for the player. Real Madrid have lowered the value of Varane because of a lack of offers. The idea was to get €60 million, but the club understands the value of €50 million in a crisis and are confident that Manchester United will make an offer. That's coming in for AS, who are, to be honest with you, AS are average reliability. So I wouldn't go running off around the street with your shirt off, but Varane to Manchester United, definitely. This is where I was going to go with this Manchester Evening News story. Manchester United fear they'll get priced out of a Varane deal, so they're looking at alternatives like Ben White and Pau Torres. But Pau Torres is going to cost 55 million, and Ben White, Arsenal have already had a bid of 40 million rejected. So Brighton want 45 million for Ben White, and Villarreal want 55 million for Pau Torres. But Varane you will get for about 45 million, the same as Ben White. You know, basically, Brighton want what we will pay for Varane. I'm out of here. Mic drop. If you can't figure that one out without me having to speak. Brighton want 45 million for Ben White. Real Madrid want 45 million for Raphael Varane. Come on. And of course, Varane's wages are going to be more, but just get rid of Mata, and that wage can be paid. 140 grand a week there. You know, Ben White will want 120 or 100, and Raphael Varane will want 250. Get rid of Mata, pay the same transfer fee, we're sorted. So, you know, there we go. Alex Rayner says Koundé was poor last night. I'm not bothered, mate. You're just a troll. I don't care. I'm not in charge of transfers. We're not going to sign Koundé. Somebody's going to buy Koundé, and he's going to be world class. It should be United if we don't get Varane, but somebody will get him, and I couldn't give a shit if you think he was bad last night. I think he's a fantastic player. I've seen enough of him to think he's a fantastic player, but I don't think United will buy him anyway. Would playing right centre-back suit Maguire if we sign Torres? He'd have Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who doesn't go forward as much, and his physicality helps Aaron Wan-Bissaka protect the back post as Demon Plasma. I personally think that Harry Maguire works as a left-sided centre-back. I'd put it to the chat. Would you rather we bought Pau Torres and had a left-footed centre-back, or would you rather get Varane and keep Maguire where he is as a right-footed left centre-back? I think Harry Maguire, for me, and I've seen a lot more of Harry Maguire now than I had a year ago, of course. I think Harry Maguire does a fantastic job as a right-footed left-sided centre-back, and he's not the first person to do that. I think I like Harry Maguire on the left, but it doesn't mean he can't work on the right. Modern day footballers are judged so wrong. You can't judge a player on his abilities by what's in his trophy cabinet. They're world-class players in average teams that win nothing, says Gaz Hardy. Okay. So yeah, I like him. I like look, for me, Varane's the number one target. That's the player that I want Manchester United to buy as a centre-back. So, we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, backups. The backups that we're looking at are going to be the same fee as... And Real Madrid need money as well. Can I just say, Real Madrid, this is a really interesting point I'm going to make. Real Madrid are not in a strong position. They're just not. They're not. The Super League was absolutely essential for them. Real Madrid want to buy Haaland. Real Madrid want to buy Mbappe. Real Madrid want to get Pogba. Real Madrid want to keep Varane. Real Madrid want a lot, but they can't get it because they're on the decline. They're in a difficult situation. And they're in a much worse situation than United or Arsenal or any other club that's not winning the titles. Because, yes, Real Madrid can fight for La Liga, but they can't fight for the Champions League. And also, financially, they're in big trouble because they're playing in a league where them and Barcelona haven't shared the TV revenue out. They haven't created a very competitive league. They've created a league that's very much, controlled by them. But the money's drying up. Whereas in the Premier League, we have a brand in the Premier League that is massively sustainable, massively lucrative. And yes, the money's shared out, but the league is very competitive because of it. And clubs have money. Real Madrid don't have money. So Real Madrid have got a player that they want to keep in Varane who's saying, I've got 1 year left on my deal. I can see what's going on in Spanish football. I want to go somewhere else. I'm 28. And Real Madrid are like, well, what's it going to take for you to stay? And he's like, well, it's going to take this amount of money. Well, we haven't got it. Okay, well, I'm going to go. Right, we want 80 million for Varane. And teams like United are saying, you're having a laugh. I'm not giving you 80 million for him. You can have 50 million. Or you can have 45 million. And they're like, well, we better take it. We better take it. So I don't think Varane are in a situation that they can, unless there's a bidding war, I don't think Real Madrid can make the best out of this situation. Of course, there's a flip side to that coin, and it's called Paul Pogba, and United are in exactly the same situation for different reasons. Because if Paul Pogba says, I want to go, and United say, you're not, he goes, well, I'm going in a year. I like Manchester, I'll stay for another year, and you'll get nothing for me. All right, we'll try and sell you, but we're only selling you for 80 million, and PSG go, we'll give you 40. It's a difficult situation. So what United need to do to try and keep Paul Pogba is, because Paul Pogba's not going to discuss leaving until the middle of July, if I was United, I'd be getting Sancho, Varane done ASAP and say you're going to get a CDM and say to Pogba, look at what we've done. Look at what we've done, Paul. We've got Sancho, you'll like him. You did the Pepsi advert with him. We've got Varane, you like him, and we're going to get a CDM. And then Pogba might go, you know what? The grass ain't always greener. And that might be a way that we sort it out, but we'll have to wait and see. Please smash a like on the video. We're so close to 1,000 likes, and subscribe. Bottom right hand corner, we're getting really close to 60,000, 1,060,000 by the way. But please do subscribe. Bottom right hand corner, we're not far off. Keep Paul Pogba, says Andrew. It's worrying that no one in the coaching or ex-players sees that we need a CDM so badly, says Shub. I mean, I think we put too much focus on United's coaching and expect it's on a level with, Pep or Klopp. We conceded a set piece where there was 9 red shirts and 5 yellow shirts. We can't, we've conceded so many set pieces all season. So does it surprise me that we're not getting a CDM when we've got a coaching network that can't even figure out how to stop conceding goals from set pieces? United are a work in progress. Ollie has said it. They're a work in progress. And because we're a work in progress, there are naiveties and mistakes made. I think not getting a CDM is a mistake. But we have made mistakes this season. We can't, we don't make subs. We use the same 13, 14 players. United players are not lighting up this tournament apart from Paul Pogba. Like what United and Dan James a little bit has done quite well. Well, hold on a minute. Did Pogba play a full season? No. Did Dan James play a full season? No. Look at Rashford, can't start for England. Look at Bruno, dropped. There's a lot of... Lindelof looked poor yesterday as well. McTominay looks tired. There's a lot of players that look very tired, and that's because they've been overused. Gustav says, yeah, the obsession we had with the left-footed centre-back was when Shaw was out and we had Williams there. With Tellez and Shaw, it's not a big issue now, says Gustav. Yeah, that's a really good point, actually, Gustav. You make a good one there. Shrijit says, a season before, Fred was one of our best player of the season contenders. Fred, Pogba and Bruno seem to be the way forward. He was regular top in our chart shows. How do you think he has dropped off so much? Is that coaching or the ability? Shrijit, football is very changeable. People don't like it when you change your opinion in football, but football is like the seasons, they change. That's why we love this game. Nothing is consistent. You can miss a penalty, you can score a 30-yard streamer in the next shot. So football is very changeable. You make a fantastic point, though. I remember Fred when he was good. I remember Fred was, when we were doing the chart show, which needs to come back actually next season. He was consistently at the top. But it would be a lie if I said he wasn't crap. towards the end of last season. But you're right to acknowledge the fact that he was doing well. Fred is now seen as a bit of a joke in our fan base, but actually there is a good player in there. And you've got to look at what went wrong. And I think it started to go wrong when he got put with McTominay. I think Fred worked well with Pogba, but that's not been used very much. But I think the McTominay-Fred protection of the back four doesn't suit McTominay and Fred. I think they're more dynamic players. I think they are players that want to play more on the front foot. And I think for a long period of last season, we were a back six. They were both told to just sit back and protect, and it's not really their job. So I think the positions that McTominay and Fred have been forced to play in is probably caused their drop off because they're not suited to it. I think there's a good player in McTominay, and I think there's a good player in Fred, and I wouldn't sell either of them. I just don't think they suit the holding midfield position that we forced them into playing. Edgar says, love your comments, spot on. I hope we're not dragging the deals and then make excuses they didn't have time to do the deals. Look and learn from Leicester. The difference is their owner loves the club, glazes out, says Edgar. And look, what a fantastic start to the season we've got. They're 8 very winnable games, which is why we go. Is Paulina a CDM? He came on yesterday for Danilo. Yeah, he does play there. Zed Jamie says, Mark, I firmly believe the Euros are giving the Glazers a free ride at the moment. All focus is on the Euros. If there was no international tournament, fans would be up in arms by some players, says Zed Jamie. Would you take Phillips at United? Yes and no. I'm not convinced that Phillips is an international class midfielder. I thought he played well against Croatia, not very good against Scotland and Czech Republic. However, he is way better than Fred and McTominay, so he would improve us. So it's improvement, but to what level, I don't know. I think there's better CDMs, but he is an improvement. Sean from Ireland says, are United just trying to get the best players available and forget about what we need? World-class CDM. Mark, did you ever do an aggregated player rating score using the sum of all the individual game ratings? Says Michael. No. And I don't think anyone would be that interested in it now, Michael, as good as it is, because the season ended up with a flat, didn't it? We ended up with a flat tyre. Zed Jamie says Phillips is better than McFred, so yes, a lot of people saying that as well. A lot of people really do. I like Renato Sanchez, by the way. For you, says Renato Sanchez. I do like Renato Sanchez. He's my kind of midfielder. He almost reminds me of a hybrid of Anderson and sort of like a Basuma type. He's combative, but he likes to carry the ball. I like Renato Sanchez. I just feel that Pogba dominated him yesterday. And also, Renato Sanchez would be a Pogba replacement. Pogba's just so good in the midfield. I get fed up at this because I've always liked Pogba, but I'm not obsessive about Pogba. You've got Pogba FC, and then you've got people who don't like Pogba. It's a little bit like Ollie. You've got obsessive Ollie in, you've got obsessive Ollie out. Whereas I don't think Ollie should be sacked yet, but I think he might get sacked in the next year. So I'm Ollie in, but I'm Ollie out as well. So I'm realistic. And I think with Pogba I'm the same. I really like Pogba, but I'm not obsessive either way. But one thing I am about, and Dean says Renato Sanchez isn't consistent, and I think you're probably right there. Welcome to the Members Club, Bruno. But one thing I've always said about Pogba, even last year when he was doing well, I think Cavani benefited from Pogba playing higher up the pitch, and Bruno benefited from that as well. But with Sancho coming in, I think that problem will be resolved. The problem is Greenwood and Rashford are attacking forwards. They're not creative. So when we played Pogba off the left, you give a creative player to Bruno, which shares the load and benefits a player like Cavani. But Pogba shouldn't be playing off the left. And with Sancho on the right, Sancho will do off the right what Pogba was doing off the left. Pogba has to play in the midfield. I'll argue this with anybody. There are Pogba FC who think that Pogba should play as a cam, as an attacking midfielder. Did you see some of the passes he played yesterday from deep? Like 30, 40-yard passes in the air, down on the ground. This is Paul Pogba. I absolutely love Paul Pogba when he's on it. And the best place for Pogba to be is in the centre circle, driving forward or passing forward. That is Paul Pogba to me. He's wasted on the wing. He's wasted at number 10. He'll do a better job than most wingers, and he'll do a better job than most number 10s. But in the centre of the pitch is where you get the whole of Paul Pogba. The physicality, the strength, the carrying of the ball, the dribbling, the confidence on the ball, the aerial ability. He's good in the air. The shooting ability if he gets close enough, but also but most important of all, the passing range. He is one of the best 30, 40, 50-yard passers in the game. and you want to put him on the edge of the box or on the left wing. To understand how far behind we are from City, we should compare the number of City's players starting in the Euros to ours, says Summit. And Amit says, hi Mark, it's very important to get all the players before our first game. Can't afford to lose those initial games. You are the best, Mark. Thank you, Amit. Thank you very much for your super chats. Well, look, that's where we are today. Not a lot of Sancho chat on the show this morning, which actually I'm relieved about, and I hope you are as well. I mean, I'm as bored as anybody else about talking about Jadon Sancho, but last night things kicked off, so you've got to cover it. I'm more looking at the grander scheme of United. The CDM issue is huge. I think it was highlighted by the brilliance of Pogba in the midfield yesterday that we put him on the wing. And look, you know, Varane's looking positive, but the reality is we're not looking at a CDM at the moment, and that really does worry me. And is that a coaching issue? Probably. Because there is clearly money to be spent and we're not prioritising a CDM at the moment. Make sure you smash a like on the video, subscribe bottom right hand corner. We've got an 8 o'clock show for you tonight because there's no Euros games. So 2 nights of 8 o'clock shows. Looking forward to both of those. And obviously if anything happens this afternoon, we'll go live as well. And if you want to check out my video on That's Football, you can do. Just want to shout out United Stand Picks as well. We are doing it for Denmark versus Wales on Saturday. Lots of people have been playing it. So United Stand Picks, if you've downloaded it, the link's in the video description. You may as well play it. It's free, but you've got to be over 18 because we are giving away cash prizes. The next game we're doing is Belgium against Wales. Not Belgium against Wales. Wales against Denmark. Scooby-Doo, the Great Danes. And 12 questions to do with that game. If you get them all right and you're at the top of the leaderboard, you win the cash prize. Links in the video description for it. We're doing it for a lot of Euros games. So if you downloaded it, you may as well keep an eye on it and play it when we're doing games. If you haven't downloaded it, links in the video description. Terms and conditions are there. There's a live leaderboard when the games are ongoing and you can win some cash prizes. But you've got to be over 18. And as I say, it is free to play. Links in the video description. Thanks everyone for watching. I am supporting Denmark. I'm supporting them. Scooby-Doo FC because they're Great Danes. Speak to you all in a bit. Thanks for watching.